Hey everyone, it's Andrew Schiffman.
Harry Turcott here. We both worked at MTV in the music and talent department in the late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah, it was a time where music videos, TRL, The Jersey Shore, and the Osbournes ruled the airwaves.
Yes, Andrew, those are some great years. So tune in every week as we catch up with old MTV coworkers, record label execs, VJs, and artists.
I can't wait, Perry. We'll give you insights into meeting superstars before they were superstars and some juicy secrets from that golden age of MTV.
So grab your headphones and get ready to relive the era of music television and the people who shaped a generation.
Hello everyone, we're back for another week. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Welcome to the Music Lounge. My favorite day of the week. How you doing, Perry?
I'm doing well, Andrew. How are you today?
Very good, very good. I'm excited about our guest today. It's someone that I've pretty much worked with my whole career, and he's been there, and even beyond our careers, we've kept in touch, which I love about this music industry and being there in the grind in the early 2000s, which is where we are focusing our conversation. But tell us who we're talking to today.
Well, we've talked a little bit in the past about sort of rebranding ourselves, and this person has definitely done that with his career. We have Jason Pleskow with us today, who is a music exec formerly at both Atlantic and at Columbia Records, and is now the head of artist marketing at Neft Vodka. Would you say that, Jason?
Head
Or
of
what?
global partnerships at NetFi.
Global partnerships. Okay. Glad we got that squared away. Welcome to the show, Jason Pleskow.
Thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it. It's truly an honor. I've been following, the podcast since the inception of it, and I'm glad to be speaking with you both today.
Thank you. Thank you for taking the time to speak with us. We know you're very busy. So
A world traveler.
Yes.
So just a little insight. We were just talking about this before we came on air that the three of us had sort of had these conversations about possibly doing something like this pre-pandemic, right? I think we even started having our conversations about stuff that we could do in the music space.
That is correct.
So I'm glad that we finally have the chance for all three of us to be together to talk. And it's been a long time, and look forward to getting into this with you, Jason. So I'm going to start off with the early part of your career. You started out in the early 2000s at Atlantic Records, and you were doing video promotion there and working very closely with MTV. Did you envision your career being in TV promotion at a record label, or was there another area at a label that sort of you thought you wanted to get into, but you ended up being on the video promotion team?
That's a great question, Perry. Let me take you back even further before joining Atlantic. So truthfully, when I was in college working, when I was going to school at the University of Arizona in Tucson, it was my junior year going into senior year. That summer, I applied to a whole slew of internships at every record label possible. And at that time, I think I sent out hard copies of my resume and cover letter. I don't believe, well, I can tell you for certain that I did not have anyone's email address at any of the record labels. So I just, researched, found out the addresses, and shot out my resumes. At the time, I really wanted to work for Sony Music. I can't remember if I actually got a rejection letter or if I never heard back. But I will tell you that right as I was about to sort of give up and go home for the summer, instead of doing an internship, I got a call from the head of college marketing at Virgin Records, based in Beverly Hills, California. And they offered me the gig for that summer, which again, it felt like the biggest joy in life. I was so excited. And I knew at that moment that I was going to take this opportunity and make it just, as phenomenal as possible. I mean, this was my ultimate foot in the door, and I was going to take full advantage of that. So I spent that summer working at Virgin Records as a intern, and I learned a lot. Was working in college marketing, but I would walk around the building and I would introduce myself to the sales team, to the regular marketing team, wherever I could offer up my, assistance and really just learn.
Were you a big music head at that point, Jason, like early on? Because they had some iconic artists, and were you really kind of drawn towards their roster as well?
Yes. So at that time, I will tell you, it was the Lenny Kravitz 5 album. It was the Janet Jackson All For You album. There was the Smashing Pumpkins. There was the Spice Girls. Beanie Man was a big artist. Nika Casa. So yes, to answer your question, that Virgin was popping. The Verve, one of my favorite artists or groups,
who are opening up for Oasis in the UK.
Yes, exactly. So at that time, I was very, very excited to be a part of, a very iconic record label. And again, Virgin was under EMI at the time. And through that internship, I was invited actually to stay on at Virgin to be a college rep in Arizona. So of course I, accepted immediately. And that was just another opportunity for me to continue to elevate in that music entertainment space, an industry that I've always dreamt of working in. You asked me about my passion for music, and I will say at a young age, 3, 4 maybe, I was just consumed and absorbing music every day and night. I was around family members who were a big influence on that. My aunt had a turntable and these huge speakers, and I was just mesmerized by watching the record spun around on the turntable and holding up my ear to these huge floor speakers and just feeling the music. And that's where it all started. So while kids of the same age were so interested in toys and candy, all I wanted to do was just go to my local record store and pick up records of all the artists that I was just introduced to. So that was the beginning.
Yeah, I can relate. I was buying all of the Now kind of compilation albums on double cassette. Yeah, but yeah, definitely same.
So anyways, to just close the gap on that, I was just happy to be working in the music industry. I didn't necessarily know where I saw myself long term, but because I was able to start that sort of trajectory into what was a very long career in the music industry, like I said, took full advantage of every opportunity that came my way. When I was officially offered an assistant position at Virgin, post graduating, I had a dual role. I was working in promotion for radio and for video. I was an assistant to both the head of radio promotion and the head of video promotion. So I was splitting my role. I got a little bit of a taste for the radio stuff, and it wasn't necessarily a big interest for me. I was more excited about the television aspect of it, being able to go to MTV. TRL back in the day was still on the air and very relevant at the time. So for me, I was super excited to be working in TV, video promotion. And I think ultimately before I got in, I always saw myself working in A&R. I always thought that, I had the ear and that I wanted to work really closely with identifying new talent and working with existing talent and their creation. So ultimately, I always saw myself in A&R. And then after, years of working in the industry, I really grew into my role, within promotion, video promotion specifically, and very happy with that decision.
So when you started at Virgin full time as a full time employee, were you in Los Angeles or in New York?
Sure. Great question, Perry. So I did my internship in the Beverly Hills office, but I was hired full time in New York City.
And who did you work with or work for in New York?
Sure. So I worked with Michael Plen and team on the radio promotion side. But truthfully, my main supervisor was Spock. Everyone remember Spock?
Yes,
Joanna Spock
yes.
Bean. Unfortunately, we lost her recently. I believe
I
it
did
was
not know
last.
that.
Yes, I believe it was last year in 23. But she was not only just very, smart and knowledgeable and very well connected and very loved in the industry, but she was a great mentor. She really wanted me to learn, the ropes. She had me at video shoots. She put me in music videos. She sent me to, TRL. I got a good Mariah Carey story. You have to edit that just a little bit. But yeah, I mean, look, again, she took me to the VMAs. I was super excited. She didn't treat me like an assistant. She treated me like a colleague. And again, I'm truly blessed to have been able to work with her.
I think where you look at where you landed in the music industry and where you are now, I don't want to go too much into where you are now. We'll save that for a little later. But that involves, obviously promotion, but marketing and partnerships. And you were involved in working with brands as well. So if you look at your kind of skill set back then, fast forward to now, you can relate that to other industries. So I think that's
Correct.
pretty cool.
Yes, you're right. I mean, I will say to that point, Andrew, whenever there were company meetings, whether it's at Virgin or it was at Atlantic or Columbia, being able to sit in that room, whether it was on the sidelines, whether it was me just bringing coffee in and out, when I was an assistant, again, I used every opportunity that was presented to me to continue to develop my skill set in so
You're
many
a
different areas.
sponge. You're a sponge.
Yep, and I still am.
Yeah, exactly. That's cool. So during the transition from Atlantic to Columbia, how did your role evolve as streaming evolved and emerged on the scene? And by the time when you kind of ended your time at Sony, how relevant was MTV? And
Sure. So when I joined Columbia, and because streaming was so different and so relevant, more so than when I first started at Atlantic. For me, it was identifying the opportunities that would help with streaming. Whatever digital marketing, digital artist campaign. And I would work very closely with MTV and VH1 and the whole Viacom family as far as what were the elements to the digital marketing portion of a new artist campaign or any of the award shows or anything at all. So um for me, it was just more about identifying what that was. I'm rambling.
did you lead the kind of creativity, knowing that digital was such a bigger part of the puzzle versus earlier in your career? Even though the broadcast piece was almost a plug and play, did you lean on enhancing the digital elements of an MTV artist to watch? Were you really gravitating towards how do we make this bigger online? What else can we do digitally? Stuff like that.
Sure. So, I mean, for me, I would say that I had a big part in identifying these bigger artist campaigns via, the MTV platform.
Right.
Now, at that time, specifically when I joined Columbia, which was 2014, um, you know, MTV was doing a big push on more on, on the digital side, just whether it was online premieres, video premieres, and what that looked like. I mean, for me, especially given the new talent that I was going to be working with, Pharrell Williams, Beyonce, John Legend, etc. These were, A-list artists.
Yeah.
Not to say that I didn't have that Atlantic, because I did, but I had to sort of shift my my thoughts on, what we're doing with MTV with these particular artists. We had to think bigger. We had to think outside the box. And I will say that, MTV and the team at that time, were very open to suggestions and ideas and collaborating together, specifically so we can, expand the reach as much as possible. It didn't make sense for some of these A-list artists to do, something with MTV just for on air. There would have to be, a big online component to that. So I was always very conscious of just making sure that, again, whatever we were doing had a big streaming component to it.
Most of your career was spent working with the music and talent team at MTV. Obviously, you were working with other platforms and other entities and other, networks and whatnot. But MTV was a huge part of what you did, whether you were at Virgin or Atlantic or at Columbia. So how did the relationships that you had at MTV contribute to the success of our team supporting your artists for campaigns?
Sure. Great question. So, I will say that, I really built up a great relationship with the MTV team across the board in all areas. Yeah, everything from the music and talent team to the news team to the digital team. I mean, you name it.
You have to. Yeah.
Yes. And I was also on, first name basis with the security at the Viacom building. I would show up, and a lot of times they thought that I actually worked there because
Right.
I was there so often. Pretty
Even
much.
that
What's
makes you look better when you come in with execs or a talent and managers. I mean, you just
exactly
walk right in. Yeah. Relationships.
exactly. I used to joke like, "Can I just get a badge?" Um, but that took years, to build up the trust, to be able to count on each other, to be able to help, not only the artists that I was representing, but also help, amplify what you guys were doing on the MTV side. You guys were searching for the new talent to build up and to promote, and I was able to deliver upon that. But I wouldn't. It wasn't just one sided. Like I said in a previous discussion, I would come to the table with ideas. Here's an artist that's either established and coming out with a new project, and here's what I'm thinking. Marinate on that. You guys would come back, and we would work together. We would collaborate, and that's what I really enjoyed. And I will say that I think everyone on the MTV side that I work with felt the same way. If they came to me, it was going to be very much of a collaboration. We were going to custom tailor something that was going to be really, really great. And we were going to make it even better than, what we all thought it could be. So again, it comes down to trust. It comes down to the talent that I was luckily able to represent some of the biggest artists in the world, but they weren't always. We had to start somewhere. It was definitely just a lot of like back and forth, and I wanted to see MTV win. Whenever you guys would come with a new sort of campaign idea or new artist opportunity, I really wanted to be a part of that, and I wanted it to make sense for everyone across the board, and I was always there to help as much as possible.
Well,
Yeah.
and the flip side of that was we always wanted your artist to win also. Like it was, if we were going to put all this time, effort, and energy into creating an opportunity for your artist, we wanted it to make an impact. We wanted it to help you gain, name recognition, sell CDs, get them into bigger, concert venues, whatever it was. We really wanted, the relationship was so symbiotic between our team and all of the video reps at the labels that, it was, we were really wanting success for each other. We weren't just thinking, oh, how does this help MTV by getting this artist on? We were like, if this can help Jason and his artist also, let's do it.
Absolutely. I mean, I can give you a few examples of just how excited I would be when I would get a new artist on TRL performance, or an artist booked on the VMAs, not an A-list artist, not a B-list, but maybe more of a C-list who had a lot of traction happening. If we were offered one of your artist campaigns, Artist to Watch or Push, that for me was the biggest joy, because I was, part of something that could help, again, the artist's career to become, from relatively, a no-name artist from maybe the UK to a household name across, around the world, because of maybe an artist campaign that we worked on together.
Yeah, I think we really wanted to give the recognition to a lot of emerging artists on established platforms like VMAs. We always wanted to highlight them, find a place for them, even if it was during a commercial break or whatever. So I think MTV still stands for that today as well. And then you kind of personally, it was great to see you and your fellow co-label execs as the next generation, because when I joined, it was your kind of upper tier that were leading the charge. And by the end of my time there, it was you, it was Lisa DeLuca. So it was nice to see you become that next kind of generation of industry execs that were almost helping dictate pop culture with MTV,
Sure. No, and nice. I think, I hate to admit it, but I think, that whole group of us were sort of like the last of it,
I was just going to say that. Yeah, you were the last of the true tribe. Video reps at the labels.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. So I guess I'll take that as an honor.
Exactly. Right? We're going to take a break and go to a little trivia portion of the podcast where we're going to test your almost memory, but, I'm going to throw you some trivia. Don't think too long. We're not up against the clock, but very kind of quick answers.
All right. Fun.
All right, here we go.
Answers.
All right. In the 2014 VMAs, Beyonce won the Michael Jackson Video Vanguard Award. What two celebrities presented her with this award?
Blue Ivy and Jay-Z.
Correct. Name one other award Beyonce won during that 2014 VMA.
Video of the Year?
Nope.
Song of the Year?
No. She won Best Collaboration with Jay-Z for Drunk in Love.
Okay. Best
Cinematography with a song called Pretty Hurts, and Best Video with a social message.
Okay, that's a hard one.
Yeah. MTV went to some destinations for its spring break series. Can you name two of them?
Well, I was at the Cancun.
Okay, so that's one.
Didn't MTV Spring Break go to Jamaica as well?
I think that was on the list. Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so
also Daytona Beach, Cancun, Panama City Beach, Florida, Miami, and Punta Cana.
Right. Well, some of those are not as exotic as others.
Yeah.
They were at Lake Havasu too, weren't they, at one point?
Yes.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, three more.
Okay.
Your last year at Columbia Records was 2019, if I'm correct.
Correct.
What artist won Video of the Year during the 2019 VMAs?
I can't Taylor Swift.
Lil Nas X, Old Town Road, which was one of yours.
Right. That's right.
That was a bit of a trick question. What floor was the musical talent team situated at 1515 Broadway?
25?
Correct. And Calvin Harris in
Yes.
2016 had the hit This Is What You Came For featuring Rihanna.
Yes.
What old girlfriend of Calvin co-wrote this song?
Taylor Swift.
Correct.
Yes.
You did good. You did good.
Worked with. Not Taylor, but Oven.
Exactly. So going back to some of the artists that you worked with, working at a label, you're really involved in the artist journey and growth from day one. Can you share one or more fond moments of when an artist that you supported early in your career is now become a major global household name?
Great example. Ed Sheeran.
Okay.
So when A-Team was starting to get some traction in the UK and other parts of the world, he was signed to, I believe, Elektra underneath the Atlantic umbrella. And he came over, and there was just a lot of buzz, on him. And I have to say, when I first heard A-Team, saw the video, I wasn't maybe as excited as others were. I didn't get it. It wasn't just something that moved me from the get-go. But he came over, and he took meetings with all of the different team members. We talked about what we all did. We all saw him at Atlantic for the first time in the US at the Mercury Lounge, and it was packed house. I mean, just so much, like, people were sweating, and really got to feel for the energy of this phenomenal artist. And it was just him making all of the sound, right?
Yeah.
There was no other musicians on the stage with him. It was just Ed doing what he was doing on his acoustic guitar. Maybe 6 months later, if I recall, we then saw him at the Bowery Ballroom. After that, we saw him maybe at, and I might be blanking a little bit, but we saw him at either the Beacon or Radio City. And then all of a sudden he's at Madison Square Garden selling multiple nights out. The reason why, again, I bring this up is because, he's a great example of an artist that, came over from the UK, had a little bit of a following, and just sort of, took off, quickly. And now he is one of the biggest global superstars in the world, and
the most humble as well, right?
The most humble, Andrew. And I will say that anytime I run into him, he will always come up to me as if like we just saw each other yesterday, and he'll put his arm around me, give me a hug, and he's just one of the most pleasant, most humble people that I've ever met.
Yeah,
both in the music industry and just in general. So that's a great example of an artist that, again, was a developing act, a baby artist, and now look where he is. So I'm excited and happy to say that a lot of the stuff that he did in his early career was with me, so
amazing.
And MTV.
You spent a lot of time at TRL with your artists. What was that like? And what was one of the most fun, crazy, memorable moments that you ever had at TRL with an artist during your time, either at Virgin Atlantic or at Columbia?
I have a great example, Perry. Good question. Can't remember exactly what year this was, but it was when either TRL came back for a big push, or it was sort of the end of that phase as we knew it, TRL. When I was at Atlantic, we worked very closely with Fueled by Ramen, and Fueled by Ramen had the biggest bands out there. Everything from Paramore, Gym Class Heroes, like just so many artists. And at that time, again, they were so relevant, these rock groups or emo rock groups, that I came up with the idea of doing a Fueled by Ramen TRL takeover.
Oh, wow.
And
That was you.
that was me. So it was definitely a lot to bite off, but we made it happen.
In a
This
nutshell, what was the format like? How many bands? Was it over a week, or was it just
was
one episode?
it was Paramore. No, it was Paramore, Gym Class Heroes, Academy was. I'm missing maybe one or two. Let's just say there were 5 Fueled by Ramen acts, all on one show,
Right.
performing, being interviewed, etc. Again, it was the Fueled by Ramen takeover. And I
Nice.
just remember what a beast it was. I was running around from one green room to another, making sure that every act was being taken care of and they were being watched over. And it
An
was,
hour show. All that went
yeah,
down in an hour.
it was a pre-tape though. So luckily, we were
Oh,
able to, not be under the gun of live television. But that was definitely a very memorable moment for me, to the point now where I haven't even thought about it until you asked, Perry. I'd like to go back and try to find some content and hope it exists to be able to see what that show looked like. My first ever experience at TRL, and this will be a Mariah moment, was, so again, I was working at Virgin at the time. It was the glitter era. Loverboy was the video push at the time. And I was with Mariah and Spock earlier in the day. Mariah was doing some radio liners at a local studio, and she ran into Carson Daly in the hall because Carson was doing his Z100 show. And Carson said to her, Mariah, you should stop by sometime, stop by TRL. And of course, Mariah got the idea in her head, let's go and surprise Carson on today's show. So within hours, we were able to source a ice cream cart and get her hair and makeup, talk to the bookers for TRL and get her on, but
wow.
as a surprise to Carson.
A surprise
So
to Carson.
a surprise to Carson. So there is footage that exists out there where I'm behind the black curtain, or we both are, and I'm helping Mariah push out the ice cream cart because she was giving ice cream suckers to the audience. And here I am at TRL for the first time with a huge A-list artist helping her push the ice cream cart onto, the into the studio
I'll have to
for
find that episode.
There was I remember that episode. I hadn't been at MTV for too long when that happened, and the word in the building was that nobody knew she was coming, but obviously people knew she was coming. But it was kind of, everyone was like, "Oh my God, I can't believe she's just like showing up like that and handing out ice cream to everybody." And I did not know that was your very first time at TRL. So
yes.
that's
So that was a
that's
good one.
great. That's a
Yeah.
great story.
And the
Yeah.
footage exists.
All right.
I'm
We'll
sure
have to
it
look
does.
for it.
Yes.
You spent all this time at working at labels, and you've kind of transitioned now into global partnerships, working with Nef Vodka. So you're transforming consumers into super fans and building strong brand loyalty. How has the background that you had working in the music industry translated to this new position?
Great question, Perry. So I, first and foremost, I'm very grateful to be able to be offered an opportunity at Nafaka, overseeing global partnerships based off of my previous career in music entertainment.
Yeah.
The reason why I was approached from Neft is because of my background, specifically in, with artists, with events, with global campaigns, etc. My network goes pretty deep in entertainment as a whole, not just music, but television and movies. And in addition, living in New York City for as many years as I did, I was also rubbing elbows with, fashion designers, other celebrity chefs, etc. So because of my network, I'm able to evolve, further in my now career, utilizing my skill set, utilizing my knowledge, and again, my network to be able to bring in new opportunities for the brand. If you would have asked me, in 2019, when I was still working in music entertainment, if I ever saw myself working in the spirits industry or, a vodka company, I would have said you were crazy. I never saw myself doing that ever. But when COVID happened and people were sort of pivoting and the priorities shift and changed, I saw that as, an opportunity that I couldn't, pass on. I see it as being an evolution, into my career and everything that I learned in music entertainment. But now, instead of just music, I'm lucky and fortunate to be able to work with, celebrity sporting events, celebrity sporting events and automotive and culinary and fashion and art and still music though. NEF just sponsored a very big music festival called Worlds Away in Monterey, California. It was the first ever music festival of this brand. And, it's going to be first of many. There's already plans to duplicate this again in Monterey, California next year and other parts of the world. It's very exciting for me to still sort of have a foot in the door with my friends in music, but yet I could do something the next day in fashion or, a week later in high-end automotive, et cetera. So
I think what also brings your skill set to the table is having worked at big corporate companies and joining a startup and you having those strategy tools to bring to an emerging company as well. Because I've found that I've been consulting startups for 5, 6 years, but what I learned in my 12 years at MTV really has created my strategy that new founders really appreciate. And
that's a great point,
yeah,
Andrew. Not only working at big global music companies, but working, in New York City, the fast pace of that lifestyle, working in music or entertainment specifically, we're like doctors, we are 24/7, there's
yeah,
so many things that are moving, all the time that we have to be aware of, especially at some of, the higher roles that we've held. I mean, if an artist misses their flight, the day before a major award show and there are no available flights because they're coming from a different part of the world, well, that's a problem, and I've had that happen to me
how do
many
you fix
times.
it? Right.
Right,
How do you
right.
fix it? And
You do. I mean, look at you. Just you make
which
it
is
work.
all under problem solving and multitasking and
Exactly.
the ability that your company now entrusts you to be the face in front of execs at these global brands like F1 and whoever, knowing that you've been the face of the record label in front of Mariah Carey's manager and global talent. So they
Exactly.
recognize that they can put you in different situations, not because you've been in front of a celebrity, but because you've been in front of that kind of top tier exec, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
I've been in some of the most stressful, scenarios throughout my tenure in music. And yeah, so when I join a company like Neff, I have a lot that I've experienced. I'm able to pivot. I'm able to problem solve. I'm able to, I'm not intimidated. I just am very focused in problem solving and project management and, you know, ultimately at the, also, being creative, so it's like if something falls apart, it's like, how do we fix that? But like, how do we fix it and do it even better than what we intended it to be? So it's a great point, Andrew. I definitely think that all of what we've encountered, really lends itself to now for me joining Neft as a continuously growing brand, and starting essentially from the bottom, and now being part of something that's going to be so big is a different thing for me. But yeah, again, I just think it's an obvious,
It's relatable.
yeah, relatable. Exactly.
Yeah. We have one more throwback question, and you've kind of mentioned seeing Ed Sheeran at Mercury Lounge and places like that, but we like to ask our guests to end with their favorite New York City venue, and perhaps it's because of an artist you've seen there or a venue that you always see good music at.
Can it be New York and LA? Because I think
Let's throw in LA. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So let me start with LA. The first time that I visited LA, I believe was in 1998, 1999. Don't quote me on that exactly. Was out in LA. I was still in school at the time, and I got lucky to be offered a ticket to go see the Beastie Boys at the Forum. And it was the Hello Nasty tour.
Wow.
And I remember I believe it was in the round, like they were in the center section. And I had really good seats. And I remember they were going into the crowd, and I'll never forget that they were in like their jumpsuits. So I was a big Beastie Boys fan. Always was, always will be. And so for me, being able to see them for the first time, seeing them at an iconic venue, the Forum, and in LA, it was just like there was so many like pinch me moments
that
occurred that night. So that was definitely my most happiest and exciting time as far as seeing a show in Los Angeles. And I've seen a whole slew since, but that was one that really sticks out for me. Then changing gears and looking at New York. I mean, for me, there's so many iconic venues. I mentioned earlier, the Mercury Lounge. I saw so many great artists at Bowery Ballroom. I mean, Radio City, I saw Bjork on, can't remember the album, but that was phenomenal. And Sigur Rós and Lady Gaga, one of her first shows. But Madison Square Garden, again, that's sort of the pinnacle, right?
Yeah.
Growing up in Buffalo, New York, I had always dreamt of, going to see a concert at Madison Square Garden. And I've seen pretty much every artist at Madison Square Garden that you can think of. But at the time, and I believe it was 2011, I had never seen Prince. And I always dreamt of seeing Prince. And I was lucky. I think one of my colleagues at Atlantic and the ticketing department was able to get me a ticket directly from the promoter. And I was able to attend. And that was the night that Prince brought Kim Kardashian up on the stage to dance with him. And I don't think he knew exactly who she was. And given her sort of reaction and lack thereof, dance capabilities, he made a joke and kicked her off the stage. So that was sort of a pop culture moment. But more importantly, I was there to see Prince, all the hits, and so happy that I was able to see him before he passed. So that was one in particular show that really, sticks out for me.
I had not remembered that, but I was also at that show. And I have to say, I respect Prince as a musician. I don't know if I was ever like a true Prince fanatic, but when I saw him, I really got it. It was like, wow, it was all the same music that I had heard, but seeing him perform it live made me just be so much of a bigger fan and respect him so much more. So yeah, I'm so thankful I got to see him also.
Exactly. Right. I mean, just as dynamic as an artist, gets. And Purple Rain is still one of my favorite albums of all time. We didn't talk about my record collection and love of vinyl either.
We'll do that in part 2.
Yeah, we'll have a themed going through Jason's vinyl collection.
Yes,
episode.
that would be fun.
Yeah.
Yes. That would be a lot of show and tell.
There you go. Thank you for coming on. It was fun. Hope
Thank you
you had a
guys.
good time.
I did. I could have kept going, truthfully. I like
Good,
this.
good.
I'll definitely do a part 2.
All right. Yep, go ahead. Great having you on. And we look forward to getting this out into the open and having you back.
Super. Well, thank you both again. I'm truly honored to be a part.
Thanks,
Always.
Jason. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us today in the Music Lounge.
And tune in next week to hear more stories about your favorite era of MTV.